He's in the comfy chair. Raise your hand, stand up. Come on, you can do it.
Okay.
Huh? Go talk to him and he'll give it to you. I'm not going to give you his email. I don't have permission to do that. All right. Time we doing? How we doing on time?
6 o'clock. So you still got 30 minutes.
So we had asked some questions, a couple of us at lunchtime when we were
Yeah, you got a lot of questions. I might save them for morning, so if that's okay, after the service. Sure. If I can get to them, if I can get through this real fast, I'll try answering some of them, okay? I promise. This is important. This has to be done. I've been doing it for years. I cannot not do this because it's so critically important to all of this. How many of you are married? We're getting there. See, that's why it's important. This is critical. I'll read fast. This is an enlightening conversation with the Marriage License Bureau. Huh? You're not? That's all right. You don't have to get rid of him. If you like him, keep him. See that beautiful couple right over there? They came to Canadian, Texas to a seminar just like this with almost this exact number of people. It's their 30-year anniversary, and I married him the right way in the Bible. Now, all they do is annul the old one. Annul the signatures. Void out the contract with the state. I want you to understand that. All right. It's not that hard. About 20 years ago, my former wife filed for divorce. We had 7 children, 5 daughters and 2 sons. Our youngest at the time, our second son, was 5 years old. At the time, I prepared a counterclaim to the petition for dissolution. 20 years is a lie. I've been saying this for almost 20 years, too. It's like 40 years. Anyway, not quite. Long time. At the time, I prepared a counterclaim to the petition for dissolution her attorney had filed in domestic relations court. I met one afternoon with the head of the Maricopa County Superior Court Marriage License Bureau in downtown Phoenix. The Marriage License Bureau was headed by a young woman about the age of 25. I asked her to explain to me the general statutory implications of the marriage license. She was very cooperative and called over an assistant, a tall man who at the time was working on an operations manual for internal departmental use. He was an attorney. She deferred for most of the technical explanations to her assistant. He walked through the technicalities of marriage license as it operates in Arizona. He mentioned the marriage license is pretty much the same in most of the other states with just a few minor differences. One difference he mentioned was that Arizona is one of 8 western states that are community property states. The other states are common law states. He then explained some of the technicalities of the marriage license. He said, first of all, the marriage license is a secular contract between the parties and the state. Okay? The state is a principal party in the contract. The husband and wife are secondary or inferior parties in the contract. The secular contract is a 3-way contract between the state as the principal and the husband and wife as the other 2 legs of the contract. He said in traditional sense, a marriage is a covenant between the husband and wife and God. But in the secular contract with the state, reference to God is not considered included in the contract at all. He said if the husband and wife wish to include God as a party in their marriage, that they will have to add it in their own minds. The state's marriage license is strictly secular. He said he further meant that what he meant by the relationship to God being on a dotted line, he was describing the blueprint, which we found on the United States Patent and Trademark Office website of a marriage. And I'm going to draw it on here in a second. Bear with me. That he meant that the state regards any mention of God as irrelevant, even meaningless, in his description of the marriage license contract. He said in the traditional religious context, marriage is a covenant between the husband and the wife and God, with the husband and wife joined as one. This is accomplished by recording it in the public in a family Bible. And he said that. From 1607 to the 1920s, a lot of Americans got married. And they got married in the Bible, recording it in the counties. They didn't have marriage licenses, contracts by the state at that time. Then they switched over. So, husband joined as one with the wife through God. That would be the blueprint of a traditional marriage. With the state marriage, the state is the primary in the contract who joins with the husband and joins with the wife. And God is on a dotted line. Any architect or engineer will tell you that in a blueprint, a dotted line is a beam that bears no weight. Okay? God bears no weight in the contract. The state being the primary, the husband and wife. Where's the direct line between the husband and wife? There. Through the state. Okay. He said this is not the case in the secular realm of the state's marriage license contract. The state is the principal or dominant party. The husband and wife are merely contractually joined as business partners and not in any religious union. They may even be considered, he said, connected to each other by just a dotted line. The picture he was trying to paint is this. Okay. He further mentioned that this religious overtone is recognized by the state by requiring that the marriage must be solemnized either by a state official or by a minister of religion that has been deputized by the state to perform the marriage ceremony and make a return of the signed and executed marriage license back to the state. He emphasized that marriage is strictly a secular relationship so far as the state is concerned, and because it's looked upon as a privileged business enterprise with various tax advantages and other political privileges that have become attached to the marriage license contract that have nothing at all to do with the marriage as a religious covenant or bond between God and man and woman. In civil law, the marriage is considered to be a for-profit venture or profit-making venture, even though it may never actually produce a profit while in operation. I know quite a few that haven't. And as the wife goes out to the local market to purchase food and stuffs and other supplies for the marriage household, she is just replenishing the stocks of the business. In civil law, the marriage is considered to be a business venture, a for-profit business venture, and as children come into the marriage household, the business venture is considered to have borne fruit. He went on to explain that every contract must have consideration. The state offers consideration in the form of the license itself, the piece of paper, the certificate of marriage. The other part of the consideration by the state is the privilege to be regulated by statute. That was hard to say. The privilege to be regulated by statute. He added that this privilege to be regulated by statute includes all related statutes and all court cases as they're ruled on by the courts, and all statutes and regulations into the future years of the marriage following the commencement of the marriage. He said, in a way, the marriage license contract is a dynamic or flexible or ever-changing contract as time goes along, even though the husband and wife don't realize it. He says it's a contract between two disparate and unequal parties. Again, a flawed contract, a contract of adhesion. Such a contract with the state is said to be a specific performance contract as to the privileges, duties, and responsibilities that are attached. Consideration on the part of the husband or wife is the actual fee paid for the license and the implied agreement to be subject to the state statutes, rules, and regulations, and all court cases ruled on related to marriage law, family law, children, and property. It gets worse along. He emphasized that this contractual consideration by the bride and groom places them in a definite, defined by law position inferior and subject to the state. He commented that very few people realize this. He also said that it's very important to understand that children born into the marriage are considered by law as a contract-bearing fruit, meaning the children primarily belong to the state. In this regard, children born to the contract, regarded as a contract-bearing fruit, he said it's vitally important for parents to understand two doctrines that became established in the United States during the 1930s. The first is the doctrine of parens patriae. The second is the doctrine of in loco parentis. Parens patriae means that the state is the undisclosed true parent. Along this line, a 1930s Arizona Supreme Court case states that parents have no property right in their children and have custody of their children during good behavior at the sufferance of the state. Let's read that one more time. That parents have no property right in their children and have custody of their children during good behavior at the sufferance of the state. This is why CPS and a police officer with no due process of law, no criminal investigation, no trial, no right to put on witnesses or present evidence or fundamental fairness or any of the due process things, could show up at your house, kick your door, and take the kids and walk out. They can do it without a warrant. Because all they're doing is repossessing their property. This means that parents may raise their children and maintain custody of their children as long as they don't offend the state. But if they in some manner should displease the state can step in at any time and exercise its superior status and take custody and control of its children. The parents are only conditional caretakers, thus the doctrine of in loco parentis. It's called crazy parenting. It literally is crazy parenting. The parents are only conditional caretakers. Understand one thing. Your signature on the marriage license application with the state is the number one and only reason we have family law courts. It's the only reason we have child protective services. It's the only reason children are being stolen in America. It's the real cause of the reason of so much child trafficking in the world. Now you tell me if it's worth it. I'm going to make it even worse for you. Hold on. Just give me a minute. This marriage license bears fruit by adding children. If sometime later the marriage fails and divorce results, the contract continues in existence. Where was I?